Start. The RBI has signaled it is aware of the burden on healthcare providers during this period. The Reserve Bank of India's move on Wednesday to step in and join the fight against the second wave of the pandemic through the announcement of measure aimed at alleviating any financing constraint for those impacted, including the healthcare sector. State governments and the public is welcome and timely intervention. Stop. The furious pace at which new COVID 19 infections and fatalities have been mounting in recent weeks has not only overwhelmed the nation's health infrastructure but has begun to significantly impair economic activity. Just as the economy appeared to have turned the corner from last year's debilitating construction stop. The fresh crisis is still unfolding. Governor Shaktikanta Das said in his unscheduled address, acknowledging the challenge ahead, stressing that it is imperative to both save lives and restore livelihoods. Mr. Das proposed a calibrated response mooting a 50,000 crore term liquidity to boost credit availability for ramping up COVID related healthcare infrastructure and services. Stop. Lenders have been urged to expedite lending under this priority sector. Classified scheme to entities including vaccine manufacturers, hospitals, pathology labs, suppliers of oxygen, ventilators, importers of COVID related drugs, and logistic firms. And although Mr. Das said the scheme would also cover patients requiring treatment, he failed to spell out how those most in need of financial assistance to cover their surging medical bills could borrow the funds. Stop. And directing the flow of credit to the sector most in focus at the moment, the RBI has signaled it is cognizant of the burden on healthcare and allied providers. Stop. However, how much lending capital stressed bank would be willing to write into their COVID loan books remain to be seen. Stop. The central banks focus on small borrowers, including unorganized businesses and MSM enterprises, both through enhanced provision of credit via small finance bank and a fresh resolution framework for existing borrowings is also heartening as these economic participants were already among the most hit during last year's construction. Stop. However, the norms laid down for resolution, including the proviso that only those borrowers who had not already availed to restructuring assistance and whose loans were standard as on March 31st, 2021 would be eligible for fresh resolution lays on onerous burden on those that the RBI itself admits are the most vulnerable. Stop. Mr. Das was also unreasonably sanguine about the economic impact of the second wave, even as he granted the high frequency indicators are emitting mixed signals. Stop. The RBI's position that the dent to aggregate demand is likely to be only moderate is based on the fact that so far this year the restrictions to contain the spread of virus have been largely localized. Stop. with more and more voices from the opposition to top industry groups urging a nationwide lockdown to break the chain of transmission. Mr. Das may need to very quickly revisit his assumptions.